Hello and welcome back. I'm John Walsh, Associate Professor of Information and Library Science at Indiana University, Bloomington. In the previous video segment, we looked at markup more generally and at some of the issues and motivations behind markup. In this segment, we will look more closely at XML. So what is XML? XML is the Extensible Markup Language, a recommendation of the World Wide Web Consortium, the maintainers of HTML, XML, and many other related technologies. XML is a meta-language. That is, unlike HTML, XML does not define a specific set of tags. Rather, XML provides the syntax and general rules for creating specific markup languages for a specific use or domain or discipline. Markup languages like XHTML for web pages or TEI for scholarly editions, math markup language, or SVG, scalable vector graphics XML format. An XML markup language consists of tags used to define the structure and other features of text. And on the screen we see some examples from HTML and TEI. XML has many benefits. It's extensible. As we just discussed, it does not provide a specific set of tags, but provides standardized rules with which one can create an infinite number of specific XML languages, XML vocabularies, XML tag sets. XML is portable and can be moved from system to system, device to device. It's a human-readable text format. An XML document is simply a text file that can be opened by any text editor, word processor, or web browser. Now we get into the nuts and bolts and key terminology of XML. Starting with elements, the basic named structural units of an XML document. On the screen we see an example of an XML element. We see the start tag, title, some element content, the Odyssey, followed by the close tag for title. Notice the close tag has this / before the element name. Attributes are name-value pairs associated with elements. In the start tag, after the opening angle bracket and the element name, in this case Q for quoted speech, one can include 0 or more attributes. The attribute here is who, indicating the speaker of the quoted speech. The value of the who attribute is a URI, pointing to another XML element with more information about this speaker. While this is not a hard and fast rule, it may be helpful to think of elements as the nouns of markup and attributes as the adjectives describing and providing more information about those basic elements. This slide breaks down the parts of an XML tag. The start tag with the element name, an attribute joined to an attribute value by an equal sign, some text content for the element, hello world, followed by the close tag for the greeting element. XML elements may contain text, other XML elements, or a mixture of text and elements. In this case, we simply have text content, hello world, as the element content. In the previous video on markup, we looked at the example of the Roundel, a poem by Victorian poet Algernon Charles Swinburne. This slide includes a possible TEI XML encoding of that poem. In this example, we are focusing on the text of the poem. The full TEI file is many times larger than this and includes a great deal of descriptive and technical metadata. Here is some of that metadata: the source description, which includes bibliographic details about the original source or sources of the digitized document. Here we zoom in still further to see bibliographic details about the volume in which this poem was originally published in 1883. An XML ID attribute on the date element indicates that this date may be used as a sort date by an application processing this data. Here are a few other possible components of an XML document that you may encounter. First, the XML declaration. Such a declaration is not required, but it's very good practice to include it. It signals to a processor that the document is an XML document and also indicates the character encoding for the document. The default character encoding for XML is Unicode UTF-8, but other Unicode and non-Unicode encodings such as ISO 88591 are also possible. Next are comments, which are structured the same as HTML comments and should be familiar to those of you who've worked with HTML. Entities may be used in a variety of ways. They begin with an ampersand and conclude with a semicolon with the entity name in between. There are 5 built-in entities in XML. LT or less than for the less than sign, open angle bracket. GT for greater than for the greater than sign, close angle bracket. Quote for double quotes. A pause for apostrophe, and amp for ampersand. Entities in the format &X followed by a hexadecimal number and semicolon may be used to enter any Unicode character. The hexadecimal number corresponds to the Unicode code point for the character, and an XML processor translates these entities into the corresponding Unicode character. DTDs and schemas are another very important aspect of working with XML. DTDs, or document type definitions, and schemas define rules that govern a particular type of XML document. They declare the elements and attributes available and the allowable content of those elements and attributes. DTDs are part of the original XML specification and are carried forward from the SGML world. They are lightweight and fairly powerful, but use a non-XML syntax and do not offer the strong data typing of the popular schema languages. With schemas, one can impose strong data typing on element and attribute content. Data typing available in many programming languages and databases. You can, for instance, declare that an element's content must be an integer or floating point unit or date or match a particular regular expression. Most schema languages use an XML syntax and can therefore be processed with existing XML tools. One popular schema language, RelaxNG, also pronounced relaxing, has both an XML syntax and a compact non-XML syntax. Now we look at the concepts of well-formedness and validity. There are 2 levels of correctness in an XML document. All XML documents must be well-formed, meaning that they must follow the basic syntactic rules of XML. Additionally, an XML document may be valid, which means that in addition to being well-formed, the document also follows the more specific rules of a DTD or schema. What are some of these basic syntactic rules of XML? Start tags must have corresponding closing tags, or use the empty element shorthand. An XML document must have one and only one root element, that is a single element within which all others are nested. Attribute values must be quoted with matching single or double quotation marks. Elements must be properly nested. They can't overlap in unallowable ways. In the first example, we have a paragraph with properly nested child elements. In the second example, the elements are not properly nested. The I element starts inside the B element, but its end tag appears outside the B element. This kind of overlap is not allowed. Special characters must be escaped using the &LT semicolon entity for the less than sign and the &amp semicolon entity for the ampersand. Here's a very simple XML document. We have an XML declaration followed by the root element memo, which includes a date attribute. We have 3 children of the memo element, the to, from, and body elements, each of which contain text. Here's the same document, but we've introduced an error. XML is case sensitive. So our from element does not have a closing tag because the case of the characters does not match. The open tag for the from element uses all lowercase characters while we have a capital F in the closing tag, so an XML parser will report an error. Here's the same document with the error corrected and a doc type declaration. The second line of the XML code is a doc type declaration with the doc type keyword, the name of the root element, memo, the system keyword, followed by the location of the DTD. The DTD can be stored on the local file system, or you can include a URL to the DTD stored on the network. Now we look at creating, editing XML content. The only tool you need is a text editor. Many text editors, especially those targeted to developer communities, will have built-in support for XML syntax highlighting and maybe additional XML features. Here's a screenshot from the free Text Wrangler text editor for Apple's OS X operating system, where we can see the syntax highlighting. XML editors are special purpose text editors or development environments that have built-in functionality for working with XML. Syntax highlighting, content completion, well-formedness and validity checking, and so on. Here's a screenshot from the Oxygen XML editor, a commercial product available for Macintosh, Windows, and Linux. The red circle at the top indicates a button for checking validity, and below in the status bar, the red circle indicates a message that the document is valid. If it was not valid or not well formed, we would see error messages. Another screenshot of the Oxygen XML editor showing how it's prompting us with element names. Oxygen can read the DTD or schema, know what elements and attributes are valid at a given point in the document, and prompt the user with those names and do content completion and so on. For the exercises I've provided at the end of this presentation, we can use a free online XML validation service at xmlvalidation.com. You can see here a text entry field where you can enter XML directly or paste it in from your text editor. Below the large text field is a choose file button if you'd rather upload a file from your local file system. And below that is a validate button. In this case, we have an error in the document, a case mismatch in the from, open, and close tags, and when we select the validate button, we get error messages, a code listing with the location of the error, and below, the red circle is circling an XML document link that will take you back to the text field where you can edit your document, fix the error, and revalidate it. When your document is free from errors, you will get the no errors found message. Thank you for spending some time with me to learn a little bit about markup and XML. We've just barely scratched the surface, and there's a great deal more to learn about XML itself and about the many related technologies and tools. But I hope this introduction has prepared you to start working with markup and XML and exploring some of the many exciting possibilities of these technologies. At the link above, dcl.ils.indiana.edu/intro markup, is a page with a couple of exercises, further reading, and links to tools. Enjoy.